On a cold Sunday morning, March 22, 1959, 8 adventurous cavers gathered at the entrance of Peak Cavern, a renowned cave system near Castleton in Derbyshire, England. Among them was Oscar Hackett Neal, a 20-year-old philosophy student from Balliol College, Oxford. Neal's heart raced with excitement as he prepared to dive into the depths of the cave. He was an enthusiastic explorer with a deep passion for uncovering the secrets hidden underground. Accompanying Neal were members of the British Speleological Association, seasoned cavers who shared his excitement for the upcoming adventure. Their mission was to explore a passage located about half a mile from the cave's entrance and investigate a fissure discovered in a side chamber 2 weeks earlier. This would be no easy task. The journey would take them roughly 1,000 feet below ground through a complex labyrinth of narrow, winding passages. Entering the cave, the cavers immediately faced their first challenge, the notorious Mucky Duck section. This was a tight, wet tunnel that often filled with water after rainfall, making it a tough squeeze even for experienced cavers. Despite the difficulties, the group pushed forward, navigating through the narrow passage with determination. Beyond the Mucky Duck lay the Boulder Passage, which was somewhat easier but still demanded careful negotiation around various obstacles. About 150 meters into the passage, the group encountered a 3-meter climb on the north wall of the upper gallery. This route ended with a tricky bend and a muddy sump above the eye hole, barely large enough for a person to pass through. Beyond this point, the passage led to the stalagmite chamber, now known as Moss Chamber, one of the most beautifully decorated chambers in the cave. Neal was thrilled to see the chamber and explore the mysterious tight shaft discovered earlier. After over an hour of intense crawling, elbowing, and climbing, the team reached their destination. Despite their exhaustion, they marveled at the natural beauty surrounding them. The fissure in the ground was large enough for an average person to pass through, measuring about 1 meter by 70 centimeters. Neal's curiosity was piqued as he wondered what lay beyond the passage. No one had fully explored the shaft, but they estimated its depth was around 40 feet. The shaft descended slightly off vertical for 12 feet, followed by a challenging corkscrew twist leading to a 10-foot incline plane and then a further vertical 18-foot drop. At around 3:30 p.m., the group lowered a flexible-sided ladder designed for accessing confined spaces. Neal began his descent into the unknown, maneuvering and sliding down. He wasn't secured with a safety rope as they believed the narrowness of the fissure would prevent him from falling. Shortly after starting his descent, he encountered an incredibly tight corkscrew compression. Despite the challenge, he navigated through it, feeling a sense of accomplishment. However, he wasn't aware of the difficulties ahead. Throughout his descent, Neal maintained constant communication with the team, assuring them that everything was going as planned. After successfully passing through the corkscrew twist, he continued his descent but soon felt irregularities with his footing. Initially, he thought he could maneuver around them as he had in the corkscrew section. After some time, he realized that a boulder was blocking his path. Understanding he couldn't dislodge the boulder or maneuver within the confined space, he decided to climb back up. Unfortunately, Neal found himself unable to lift his feet sufficiently to ascend the ladder. He became wedged in an elliptical crevice only 18 inches wide, unable to move in either direction. Despite their efforts to lift Neal by pulling on the ladder, it became jammed between the cave surface and Neal's body. Situations like these are not uncommon in caving, and initially Neal's companions thought the rescue would be straightforward. However, several attempts to haul him up with ropes failed, with each rope snapping or shearing on the rock edge. This likely caused Neal to panic, and as he tried to climb upward, he became firmly stuck just below the corkscrew, unable to bend his legs to grip the ladder or flex his elbows to ascend further. He found himself in a dire situation. Recognizing the urgency, some cavers went to seek additional help. Within hours, volunteers from across England arrived at Peak Tavern, determined to free the trapped Neal. Hundreds of volunteers, along with assistance from the Royal Air Force, police, and even the Navy, joined the rescue efforts. Just a few hours after Neil became trapped, the rescuers encountered another unforeseen problem. By this time, the atmosphere in the shaft had become severely polluted, with Neil's body cutting off the airflow. His disorientation became evident, and his behavior grew increasingly irrational. Experienced cavers were sent down the shaft to reach Neil, but one by one, they were forced back by the toxic air. 3 volunteers lost consciousness while attempting the descent. Finally, the 4th volunteer, Ron Peters, managed to secure a rope around Neil's chest. Upon starting to pull, they realized that this only worsened his breathing difficulties. News of Neil's predicament spread rapidly through nearby villages. Seasoned cavers known for their bravery and resourcefulness hurried to Peak Tavern with ropes, oxygen masks, and makeshift stretchers. They were determined to navigate the perilous shaft, but the descent was grueling. The narrow passage, scarcely wider than a shoulder, twisted and turned, triggering feelings of claustrophobia. The air, tainted with Neil's exhalations, assaulted their lungs and clouded their vision. One by one, they emerged defeated, gasping for fresh air, their eyes red and stinging. The Royal Air Force airlifted oxygen cylinders and specialized equipment to the scene. When a delivery of oxygen tanks arrived at 12:30 a.m., there was hope that it would revive Neil and facilitate his rescue. Although the air quality marginally improved, it remained insufficient. It was decided to continue pumping oxygen throughout the night, with plans to send in a nimble, experienced caver capable of navigating the narrow shaft first thing in the morning. By early Monday afternoon, nearly 24 hours since Neil had entered the cave, his labored breathing could still be heard. Despite the desperate situation, the team remained determined to persevere. Compressed air cylinders were used to try to clear the foul air from the shaft. The walls, ladder, and rope were coated in mud, obscuring Neil's location. Meanwhile, incessant rain threatened to flood the Mucky Ducks area of Peak Tavern. As a precaution, it was advised to withdraw for everyone's safety. Once the rain eased, accompanied by an RAF doctor who had joined the rescue effort, they returned to the head of the shaft where they had last heard Neil breathing, but this time there was no sound. Neil Moss was declared dead on Tuesday, March 24, 1959. Dr. Hugh Kidd described the experience as the first and only time he had declared death without actually seeing the patient. Throughout the ordeal, Neil's father, Eric Moss, waited at the tunnel entrance. He requested that his son's body be left in place to prevent anyone else from risking their lives. Contrary to popular belief, the lower part of the shaft was sealed with loose rocks collected from the chamber floor, not with concrete as often reported. The once well-decorated chamber that housed the tiny shaft eventually became Neil Moss's final resting place. Today, the stalagmite chamber is named Moss Chamber in memory of the courageous young caver who tragically lost his life. On the evening of November 24, 2009, John Jones and his younger brother Josh set out on what they anticipated to be an exhilarating adventure at the Nutty Putty Cave in Utah County, Utah. This cave, a popular destination for both tourists and seasoned spelunkers, boasted a variety of well-known spots, such as the Big Room, the Maze, and the Big Slide. Despite the allure of these famous sections, John and Josh were drawn to the more challenging and less explored areas of the cave. Having bid farewell to John's wife Emily, who was pregnant with their second child, and their young daughter Lizzie, the brothers, along with 9 friends and acquaintances, made their way to the cave's entrance. Though none of them had ventured into this particular cave before, they were equipped with a map and shared stories from others who had. John, a medical student at the University of Virginia, had not been caving recently due to his busy schedule, but considered himself experienced. He and Josh had spent much of their youth exploring various caves in Utah. Nutty Putty Cave has only one entrance, measuring a mere 1.8 meters across. This meant that any passage navigated must be backtracked to exit. This structure necessitated careful planning and a good understanding of the cave's layout. Inexperienced cavers could easily become disoriented and trapped in the labyrinthine passages. The group entered the cave with high spirits. The initial areas they explored were spacious and accommodating. However, John and Josh, along with two friends, soon decided to seek out the more notorious parts of the cave, specifically the birth canal and the aorta crawl. These sections were infamous for their narrow and claustrophobic passages, which had trapped many cavers before. Despite these warnings, John's confidence and determination led the group onward. After navigating the big slide, a 45-degree descent into a larger room, the brothers and their friends split up to explore different paths. John and Josh chose a passage they believed led to the birth canal. However, John inadvertently took a wrong turn, leading them into an unfamiliar section known as Ed's Push. This passage was poorly documented and known for its complexity and dangerous narrowness. Ed's Push was a roller coaster of tight squeezes, twists, and turns, requiring cavers to maneuver their bodies in challenging ways. John, unaware of the exact path he was in, pressed forward, believing he was still on the right track. His journey led him to the Corkscrew, a perilous and notoriously tight area. 5 years earlier, a 16-year-old named Brock Clark got stuck in the same corkscrew section at 5'7" and 140 pounds. He became wedged when he tried to turn around, and rescuers took 14 hours to free him. John now found himself in the exact spot where Brock had been trapped. Attempting to turn around at 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, John knew that turning around here was impossible. He was in a 12-inch high space with no room to maneuver his body. John decided to push forward to a ledge area, squeezing over the top of it. The space was tight, but he believed he could see it open up ahead. He sucked in his stomach and pulled himself forward on the rocks, moving head first downwards, hoping there was an area ahead where he could turn around. Unbeknownst to John, no one had ever crossed this ledge before, and he was in uncharted territory. Despite the tight and uncomfortable position, John remained calm, convinced there was an opening ahead. He thought he was still in the birth canal, a part of the cave where many cavers had felt stuck but eventually found their way through. After passing through a tight zone, he began to slide toward the bottom of the tunnel, nearly doing a handstand as he tried to hold himself up and figure out how to push backward. He couldn't turn, and now was upside down, with gravity pulling his 200-pound body against his weakening arms. John yelled out to his brother Josh, telling him not to follow, but to go back out. They discussed his options and decided that moving forward to find a spot to turn around was the best idea. John was collapsing onto his shoulders and head and needed to make a move to get out of the vertical position. His headlamp showed a hole in the floor ahead that might lead to a larger space, giving him a bit of hope. Exactly how John ended up in this tunnel hole remains a mystery. He might have slipped, hit his head, and become wedged in the tight space. Another possibility is that he misjudged the hole, thinking it was an opening rather than a dead-end fissure. Regardless, John found himself in a small, impossibly narrow opening at the bottom of the tunnel, only 18 inches by 10 inches, nearly upside down at a 70-degree angle. John tried to push himself back up, but it was exhausting. His arms were in useless positions, one folded under his chest and the other trapped by his side. He strained against the walls, quickly realizing that all his efforts couldn't move him back up the 5 feet to the shallow tunnel. While his calves and feet were still free up in the passage, his legs were now wedged in the narrowest part of the hole, only 8 inches wide. He started yelling for Josh again. Knowing that John was trying to turn around, his brother recognized that his yells were not a good sign. Josh quickly made his way to his brother. Josh found John in a dire situation, trapped nearly upside down at a 70-degree angle. John's position was not only uncomfortable, but life-threatening, as being upside down for extended periods can lead to severe physical complications. Josh tried to pull John free, but his efforts were futile. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Josh made the difficult decision to leave John and seek professional help. Meanwhile, friends and family members gathered near John to offer comfort and support. Time was of the essence as John's condition worsened with each passing minute. For several hours, John remained trapped upside down, concentrating on the arduous task of breathing. The fissure compressed his chest, permitting only shallow breaths. Every attempt he made to move upward only caused him to settle deeper into the crevice. As time passed, gravity relentlessly pulled him against the rough walls of the tunnel, tightening its hold on his exhausted body. After the rescue team arrived, the first rescuer to arrive was Susie Mola, who had experience with the cave's tricky passages. She tied a rope around her ankle as a precaution and navigated her way to John. Despite her best efforts, the rope experienced too much friction due to the passage's complexity, making it impossible to pull John out. Susie realized that a more advanced pulley system would be necessary. As more rescuers arrived, a team of 20 worked tirelessly to devise a plan. They faced numerous challenges, including the cave's distance from the entrance, the narrow corkscrew passage, and the hard limestone that made it installing hooks for the pulley system difficult. Additionally, John's position in the cave made it nearly impossible to use conventional rescue techniques. Throughout the night, rescuers communicated with John to keep his spirits up. John, a devout Christian, found solace in prayer during this harrowing ordeal. However, his physical condition continued to deteriorate. The human body is not designed to be upside down for long periods, and John's organs began to suffer from the unnatural position. As the pulley system was finally prepared, rescuers made one last attempt to free John. 8 people worked together to pull him out, but John's legs, which had become completely numb and blue from lack of circulation, hit the ceiling of the passage. The pain was excruciating, and John's condition worsened rapidly. In a final effort, rescuers considered breaking John's legs to facilitate the pull, but medical experts warned that this could lead to shock and cardiac arrest. Despite their best efforts, John remained trapped. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25th, after 27 hours upside down, John Jones was pronounced dead. His body had succumbed to the physical stresses of his position. The tragic death of John Jones led to significant changes regarding the Nutty Putty Cave. Officials sealed Ed's push entrance and later closed the entire cave system with concrete, ensuring no one else would suffer the same fate. A plaque was placed to commemorate John's memory, marking the spot where his adventurous spirit and love of caving met a tragic end. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of caving and the importance of thorough preparation and caution. John Jones is a testament to the bravery and determination of both the cavers who explore these underground worlds and the rescuers who risk their lives to save them. The Nutty Putty Cave, once a site of exploration and adventure, now stands as a somber monument to John Jones and the ultimate sacrifice he made in pursuit of his passion.